Hey, you guys, welcome to Regardless. I am so excited to have you here. Regardless is the go-to hub for tips and tools to keep you going, babe, reminding you that you've got this. Grace Emmons on Regardless podcast. Let's get this. So I cannot believe the last time we spoke, we were supposed to record and then the wildfires hit and holy cow, girlfriend.
I know. What a crazy start to the year.
I know.
And I can't believe now it's like the end of March. It's like basically summertime. I feel like we just started the year because we lost like a couple months there. Yeah, I know. We were supposed to record that week, was it? Yeah.
And then it just hit.
Yeah.
And you know what's beautiful though? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's spring. We're bringing in a new, like your outfit's giving spring. I'm in a dress. Like, we're ready.
We're ready. We are. And spring equinox, it's truly the start of spring right now as we record. And I mean, what's really special, so my house, I shared with you, we were like 500 feet from the fire line. Luckily, our house and property and the retreat center that we run there, like everything was untouched. But from our property, you look out and you see just across the way, just like burnt hills and like over the, bottom edge of our neighborhood, like the walking path we used to walk is burnt to a crisp.
Oh my God.
But I was just up there last week and now there's already new growth and little like you see these little green buds sprouting through already, and it reminds us how, fire is a natural element of life and it's all about transformation. It's all about the death and rebirth, and the fact that the death, the destruction has to happen in order to make space for the new and the birth and the springtime and the seedlings. And there's literal plants. There's certain plants, we have like the manzanita in Topanga. It can only grow after a fire. The seeds lay dormant in the soil for like years and years and years, and it only sprouts up after fire runs through. And so it's like literally, yes. So this is real. There's like, we need the fire to clear the way.
Something?
Yeah.
I've been okay. First of all, I didn't even introduce you because I feel like we're like sisters. Like, it's weird. Anyways, can I introduce you before like I go on to my tangent?
Sorry.
No, you're good. So Grace Emmons, you're incredible. You are a transformational coach and an energy healer. And really, you're a CEO with Move Forward with Grace. But also what I love about what you do is that you help people trust their intuition and step into their own power to make confident decisions to live and really step into their full potential. So welcome to Regardless. I wish that I kind of gave you that intro at the beginning, but here we are.
Thank you. My fault. I just dove right in, how could I not take that opportunity to talk about the spring energy? But thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
It's true. And you are so accomplished. I mean, you've been featured in Goop. You've been featured in Entrepreneur, Parade. What you're doing through Forward with Grace is so inspiring. And I look up to you in so many ways. And I'm just very excited to sit down with you today to pick your brain as a fellow mentor because oh my goodness, like even with what you were just saying about spring equinox and things having to die in order to rebirth even ourselves, like even for me, I was just talking to my mom about this, but oh my goodness, before the wildfires, like a lot of things in my life died. And just now, like literally this week, I'm like, whoa, like the self-work worked. And like now it's like making sense. And I feel like there's just this new version of Skylar that's arrived.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's come out like from nowhere, but like it hasn't.
Well, you've been building it, like the change has been happening within, but it doesn't all get outwardly manifest until these certain pivotal points. So I'm assuming you've been on a self-work journey, and we talked a little bit about it, but you've been on a self-work journey for what? How many years now?
Oh my God. Like I feel like since I was like born, because like my mom's a therapist. So she was like, Sky, we're getting you ready.
Sure, exactly. And so like if you've been working behind the scenes even while you were in your corporate job, but you knew that wasn't really your purpose or really what you were meant to do, then as long as, anytime that you're doing like the self-work along the way, it's not always the time to make the jump, but when you have the opportunity and when you see the signs and when you feel the pull and when you get the intuitive hit of now's the time, it's like you finally get to see the outward manifestation of the inner transformation that's been happening all along. So I think you just are in one of those chapter, the closing of one chapter, the beginning of a new one. And we are collectively, I mean, the fire was like a outward manifestation of this, again, transformational energy, like the closing of a chapter for LA, for this whole city. And also then pivots us into looking forward to the future of what is to come. And we get to create that. So it's really a beautiful opportunity.
I agree. And like, you're an expert. I mean, you're a transformational coach. And I wanted to pick your brain on like looking back at your story. Like, I know that you weren't always a transformational coach. So I want to learn a little bit more about what was it like for you to make that scary decision in the moment of like, okay, I'm going to be a transformational coach. Like, what did that look like for you? Like, how did you make that decision? Bring us back to her.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I mean, similar to you, like it was in some ways a long time coming. I had a spiritual awakening when I was about 24 in a Reiki session that kind of kicked me down a path of like a whole new chapter of my life of self-work, deep inner work, becoming more purposeful with my life. And I began to understand as my intuition woke up and came back online, and I began to trust that and follow the clues I was getting. I began to understand I wasn't in the right career path. I was working in pharma and biotech. Well, my degree was in biomedical engineering from USC.
Smart cookie alert. Hello.
So I went down this path that, okay, if you're me and you are fascinated by like the human body and all the natural intelligence that we have to heal ourselves and like these big picture questions of like consciousness, and like I was just such a nerd in so many ways. And what that got funneled into when I was younger was people saying like, oh, you should go to med school and be a doctor or like study like engineer. I don't know. My parents, people funneled me down this way of like, this is what you should do. Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You feel like
I get
it. And so for a long time, I just let those external opinions direct me. And then at some point, I ended up in a really low point, super burnt out in my job. At the time, I was like flying around the country in boardrooms with like executives selling these $1 million deals to pharma companies and like totally not okay personally. I was in a toxic, abusive relationship with an ex. I was like abusing like cocaine and alcohol, honestly. Like it was just one of those times where you look at your life and you're like, why does this suck so much? Why am I not happy? Why does nothing make me happy? Like, where did I go wrong? I thought I followed the path that I was supposed to. So why do I feel like I'm at a rock bottom? And for me, that spiritual awakening I had really kicked me off on this journey of discovering I was meant for such a different life than the expectations I was sold. And like I was meant to live this full life, to find purposeful work, to be an entrepreneur, making change in the world and creating things in the way that I see them, I see the world could be. And it's never going to fit into like the standard cookie cutter, path and box that you fit into based off what college degree you get and what corporate company you work at. It was never going to fit for me. So once I started to really trust that and be open to following my own inner guidance system, everything started to change. And I was able to follow that all the way to launching. Now I'm on like my third soul aligned business venture. And yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Like I truly get to say that like the dreams I used to have when I was in my early 20s. Like there was a time when I had this intense healing experience in a Reiki session. And I remember saying the words, in another life, I would just be a Reiki master. In another life, I would just, people would come see me. I'd like live out in Topanga and people would come visit me to be healed and, you know, to work with me. And like, I could just see this whole life. And it felt so far from where I was that I truly thought I meant like another lifetime, like when I reincarnate after I die, you know, it felt like I could never go from where I was to there. And then all it took was fast forward 5 years later and I manifest every single thing that I had said.
Wow.
And all it took was trusting myself, being willing to throw away the expectations and the outside validation and being willing to feel empowered from within and like being willing to take a chance on what I could see for myself, even if there was no proven record of it being done, which is scary. I mean, I brought Reiki and energy healing into the corporate world. I've been trusted by like some of really top name companies out there. I mean, United Talent, like Soul Cycle, you know, like Fortune 500 companies to teach on things like Reiki and energy healing, which people said like, that would you know, when I had this idea, people were like, who's gonna do that? That's like, you know, Reiki in the corporate world, no one's gonna be ready for that. But I think we all get these ideas and intuitive hits, and they're really coming from a potential future that is possible for us, right? Like, I don't believe that anybody gets a dream in their head, in their heart, that isn't for them to achieve. You with your podcast, you could see it, you could feel it. You're like, I have a feeling if I'm willing to take a chance on this, it could be big, because it will. Because, right? But there's 100 people out there that would see it for themselves and just not be willing to make the move. And I believe that when we're willing to make those moves and claim our dreams unapologetically, like we can truly do anything that we can imagine.
Okay, you telling your story, I like started getting a little bit teary-eyed, just because it hits so deeply for me, and I know for my girls out there listening to this, because you know, we go to school and we're put into this box, and of course it's, you know, we learn essential skills that allow us to understand, like, how do we best study? Like, where do we gain our discipline from? How do we socialize and understand to, like, kind of be an adult? And then we're put out into the real world. And I'm so grateful for my experience in corporate, because I've learned so many skills that have gotten me to where I am now, and like building a business, et cetera, and networking, all of the things that are so essential. And then I think what gets really exhausting and overwhelming, and I think adds to the burnout, is all of these voices. And I think specifically speaking to being a Gen Z female, I'm at this point where I'm like, will someone shut the fuck up? And it's also myself too, where it's like, we're scrolling on social media, influencers, advertisements, friends. Then it's like, what should I be? What should I not be doing? Then our parents, then the expectations that have been drilled in us since we even stepped on planet Earth, to society, politically. Like, we're in a world where media is constantly either surrounding us, or as an entrepreneur, a business owner, and just a Gen Z, we're constantly consuming.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you know what the right decision is for you? It could be corporate, it could not be, but like, and I love this word of like inner guidance system. Like, could you please share with us, like, how you define inner guidance system, and like how that allowed you to delete the shoulds and like actually tap into grace and my purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to use the term inner guidance. Other people call, you know, will use the term intuition, or I think there's a lot of these terms that can sort of be used interchangeably, but we all have an inner knowing within us, that if we can learn to strengthen it enough that we can hear it, trust it enough that we can follow it, it is truly the only way to live an actually fulfilling, you know, life, honestly. I think like there is no right answer or right path. There's only the right path for you. So no one can tell you what that is except for yourself. I think you're exactly right. There's a lot of reasons why people are so disconnected from their inner guidance system. We have so many inputs coming at us, like you said. And I think there's just so much busyness and so much noise, truly noise, external noise in every sense, right? And there used to be, if you think about what humans were doing a couple 100,000 years ago, or even a couple 100 years ago, we had a lot more spaces of quiet, stillness. Like people were just bored sitting around or like working out in a field. You weren't just like inundated.
Now I'm like, oh my God. Like literally last weekend, I was like, I need to shut off. And I hid my phone. I canceled all of my social plans. And like just to rot is like a luxury.
Yes. But we don't do that enough. Like how is anybody going to be able to hear their inner voice when there's so much of that external noise? So the easiest way to start to turn down the external noise is, like you said, literally turn your freaking phone off and like put it in the other room. Take a day where you're just like by yourself, with yourself. One of my favorite practices is this like spontaneous solo adventure day where you are deviceless if you can be, or if you're going to be on your phone, just like don't get pulled into holes of like on social media and stuff. Like maybe use it to map to the place you're going, and you just like check in with yourself and you're like, what do I feel like doing today? What do I feel like doing? Okay, what's the answer? That's your inner guidance answering. When the inner guidance is like, ooh, let's go like get a smoothie or go on a walk, and it comes from, it's not the voice in your head that's mean or critical or chattery. We have, and this is where I think people get a bit confused. I like to describe it as, you can think of an inner critic voice, and this is going to actually hold all of those shoulds, all of the external programming that has told you what you need to be, what you should be doing. It's kind of like the ego mind, okay? Yeah. And then we have this other side. You could call it your higher self, your inner self, your true self. And this is your own inner dialogue that's coming from a loving place, coming from a grounded place, coming from like your own intuition and inner guidance, right?
Yeah.
So what happens is the inner critic part gets way too loud, and then that's all we can hear. And we have to figure out ways to quiet it down so that we can hear from within. So, you know, there's a lot of practices to help do that. But I think first and foremost, it's just about creating the space, the time, being willing to like sit with yourself. Without a distraction, without looking to the phone, without looking for more inputs. I mean, there's really powerful things that are very, very simple that we're not doing that explain why we're so like out of whack. We're going haywire.
We are. And it's like, I think for me, especially when it comes to like making decisions, especially, I mean, anywhere from like small decisions, like an adventure day, to a big decision, like a change in career. This is just like a very personal question, but how do you know that you are making, and I know this is like a two-sided question, like the right decision? Because for me, I really appreciate like my parents' opinions, and I appreciate my closest friends' opinions and my mentors' opinions. How do you know which voice is speaking? Like that's really hard for me.
Yeah. It is hard to discern. It takes a bit of, honestly, in this day and age, it's like a deconditioning and deprogramming for you to be able to parse out what is other people, what is me. I think when it comes to big decisions, well, first, let me explain something. We also all have different ways that our inner guidance will communicate with us. So this is also why it can be a bit confusing for people. Because what works for one person, somebody will use language like, you know, the gut feeling. And somebody else is like, well, I don't really get those. Yeah, because we're all different, just like we all have different learning styles. You mentioned like, how are you good at studying? Okay, some people like to take notes. Some people have to hear the lecture. Some people have to read the lecture. The same is true for our inner guidance, our intuition. So some of us are, you can think of it as intuitive sight, like you can see something for yourself. You can see into the future. Maybe you saw a vision of us sitting here on your podcast, right? And you're like, I know that that's for me because I can literally see it in my mind,
I
right?
think that's what I have.
Okay. So that's one, but there's also the feeling sense, the feeling within your body. Like it could either be, and this has many different flavors. So we all know about the gut feeling that maybe you get like this bad gut wrenching feeling when something's wrong. Have you ever been like cheated on or something, or someone betrays you and you like,
and like, or you even get mentally sick.
Yes.
Like ill.
Yes, exactly. Because something's not right for you.
Yes.
So we all know that experience of the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of nuance and like there's these different flavors of when you really get into listening to your own body and what it has to tell you about a situation. We can get really in tune if, again, we practice, we get quiet, we spend time with ourselves without other inputs. We can start to learn the language of our own body. So for example, for me, I have this sense of, I can feel if I'm deciding on something, I can tell whether a yes feels uplifting and exciting and maybe a little scary because it's different, and it's scary because it's a leap, but I know it's a right kind of scary, expansive scary, versus a drop, versus a no, versus like the no is like contracting and like, they have energies within my body that I can feel into because I've done a lot of this work. And I teach people and I teach my clients how to tune into this, right? Because it's learning your own rhythm? Inner self's language with you. But it's, it can also be, so we talked about the sight, we talked about the feeling. Some people are claircognizant, which means they receive insightful downloads just into their mind. They drop in. This is how I am intuitively. Like, let's say I was working on a client in Reiki or, energy healing or even a coaching session. Yep. I'll receive guidance and I know I can separate it from thoughts and like my baseline, what's going on in my mind. It drops in. I mean, we know about this from Albert Einstein and like Thomas Edison. Like they will talk about receiving insightful ideas. It's like they come from outside of you and they drop into your mind and you know them to be true, real, like they just have a certain quality about them. So you can see how there's a lot of different ways and we're all going to have different strengths, intuitive gifts that we need to learn to work with and to hone in on. And you people listening might start to realize like, oh, wait, yeah, that does happen to me. Or, oh, yeah, I remember the time I felt that way in that situation. So once you start to, like, you can learn from the past and past experiences, but once you become aware of it, you can practice it in your day-to-day life. You can test out, like, you can test it out in little decisions. That's why I talked about like the adventure day. I mean, sometimes I'll tune in, like we always make everything so heady. We make everything so heady. Have you ever been at like a restaurant and you're like, I don't know what to order. I don't know what to order. There's so many things on the menu. Yes. Okay, so what if you just look at the menu and go, I'm just going to see, what do I feel like? What if you just make a game out of it and you say, what's just going to like, okay, body, like tell me what's the best for me overall right now, and get your mind out of it and just let it just be a like, boom.
Bam.
Right? That's trusting your own intuition. And it's actually a skill that we can strengthen and build. And we, just the same as we have to turn down the external noise in order to hear it, we can also amplify our inner signals, the signals within, by using it, seeing the result, and then realizing like, oh yeah, I was right. yeah, oh, that is real. And then you affirm, and it builds the confidence, and you amplify to the point where you can then be making decisions like leaving a job, making a career jump, starting a business, starting like a really freaking scary venture, because you trust in your own guidance system that much.
Wow. Okay, this is super interesting. And this really, I see a lot of similarities with like the confidence formula. Like I talk about this all the time. Like in order to build the confidence muscle, like it's a muscle that you have to build. And I think that goes like same with trusting your intuition.
Yep.
It's like, okay, courage plus competence equals confidence. And the more that you get yourself outside of your comfort zone, you step into the fear, and regardless of the fear, you're doing it anyways. And from doing that, you prove to yourself that yes, you are capable. In fact, that builds competence, and then that is confidence. But you continue to do that, and that builds a muscle. I think the same kind of goes for building your intuition.
Absolutely. Yes. And they do go hand in hand. I mean, I think you explained it perfectly. They do go hand in hand as well, because it's also the kind of thing where, well, I don't know if this is part of the confidence formula, because I don't know if I know that system exactly, but you described it perfectly, so I get it. But the other thing is, like, we don't have to be so afraid of making mistakes, because if you think of it as a game, if you're more playful with yourself and you realize that you can test it out when the stakes are low, so that you're building up to the point of knowing your yeses and nos when the stakes are high. So like you work up to the bigger question, because sometimes you get as much information and value from a no
yes.
as learning a yes, right? Like, let's say you test this out and you use it for some decision that's kind of like
low
medial.
stakes.
Yeah. Or it could even be something real. It doesn't have to just be picking off a menu. Let's say, okay, a couple years ago, I was deciding which, I was working with a marketing team on one of my businesses and to rebrand. And I was deciding between two different contractors for something. And I was really feeling into it intuitively. And it was interesting because like I had this kind of intuitive hit about something about it that I didn't really trust and follow. And I let my mind override, and I made a different decision that was maybe I intuitively knew it was a no, but I still made the decision anyway. It was actually so helpful that I did that, because then it was more and more clear to me of like, oh, I did know that from the beginning. Right? So sometimes like it's like through the failures that we then learn, okay, well, this time around, I'm going to bet everything on my intuitive knowing, because I've seen what happens when I don't trust myself. So, we can learn as much from the failures, from the time that you didn't trust yourself, from the time that you didn't trust your intuition, as much as you do from the times you do. And it's more just about once we start being aware of it, there's so much information there.
And I've absolutely been there. I mean, like even looking at like my relationships, like, oh my goodness, like my body was quite literally screaming at me, getting physically ill. And I still decided not to listen to her. Like I was sick to my stomach and like not okay. I was unwell.
Yeah.
And yet I decided to ignore her and do something because I thought, or I should be doing that. And I know now, Sky, girlfriend. So I agree. I actually think learning, okay, when I ignore that, then it's actually not for me. I think the no's are sometimes more powerful.
Yes.
Because then we don't have that contrast.
Because our body is like screaming at us, being like, hey, like, listen to me.
Yeah.
Anytime we're getting sick, it truly is our body trying to send us a message. And we missed, again, speaking of noise, we miss these softer, more subtle cues, and we miss the like subtle messages that our body's trying to give us, and then it has to scream. Like it's the same with illness. I mean, it's like if you think about, if you when you like get a little cold and then you don't rest and then you like get really sick. Okay, if we would have just listened to the cold and taken care of ourselves and nourished ourselves, like it's like our body is always calling out And we can either listen to it or we can try to override and ignore and push through. And it's always going to burn us in the end. So I think the same thing happens with our intuition when it's coming to how to guide us through life. It's like you will just get burned in the end if you don't trust it earlier, you know?
It's kind of insane.
It is. But it's so cool, like that we have this, it's like almost like your own little inner compass, or, you know, like think about your AI, like what are they, Google Maps or something. It's like you have that within you to direct you to your best, most thriving, most purposeful, most aligned life. And you just got to like turn up the volume on that, right? And because there's music on, there's people yelling in the car, there's people screaming, and you got to be like, hey, shush up. I got to like turn up the volume here to figure out where I'm going.
Yes. And this is so powerful because I think this is like the essence of regardless of the freaking shit everywhere, the noise, social media, people honking outside, our parents, society, Trump, like all the things, not to bring in politics, but like this is like, there's a lot, and no one is going to have the answers for you.
Yes.
It comes from within.
Only you know what's the best next step for you, always, always. And anytime you try to outsource it to other people, it's never going to work. Yep. And not that you can't, you know, I think what's really helpful is having people that you look up to that live a life that you can resonate with, where you're like, ooh, that, you know, like mentors, like finding good mentors that you're like, oh my gosh, I like the life they're living. That's kind of like the life I see for myself. You can gain a lot from being expanded in like being able to see what's possible for you. But still, that person is still not going to be the one to like tell you every single move to make. Yes, you know, like it's about, that's like expanding your mind to what's possible. And then still you can only guide for yourself, because what's one person's best life is not, if you tried to copy and paste, it's not gonna work. No. We're each so unique. We each are so unique that, like, I believe we all have kind of, I believe that we drop in as souls, incarnated as humans, and that there is like this perfect, thriving, aligned life that is waiting for us to unwrap it. But the path is so unique for each and every one of us, because we all come in with our own gifts, and we all come in with our own strengths, and we all come in with our own weaknesses and baggage and places we're going to get, you know, hung up. So it's like about finding that your own unique path through, that no one can ever really truly guide you, because then you'd be following someone else's path. Right.
And also I think people, like, of course, give you their advice and perspective from their own journey. And it is an interesting art. And this is something that I'm still like developing. And I am curious, Grace, like when you are getting advice from like a parent or a mentor, because I think, as we all know listening here, our mentors like you, they're necessary to growth, to staying curious. Like, I love being a lifelong student. That will always be ingrained in me. Yeah. But I think like in the process of asking for advice, like maybe it's about a very big decision, like how do you suggest someone receives advice, and like how should that, not to use the word should, but like how can you use that to help you tune into like your purpose and then from there take action?
Yeah, it's as simple as think of the advice as information, but not the answer or the result. So you can seek information from a lot of different places, right? You can be in information gathering. Like, okay, I'm going to gather all the thoughts, all the perspectives.
R&D.
Yeah.
Love it.
But then at some point you have to take it in and process it through your own system and say, okay, with all that being said, what's true for me, what's right for me. And again, it's the checking in. It's as simple as like going inward, asking and seeing, does a thought pop in? Does a yes or a no or a next step? Does a feeling come in pulling you towards something? Again, we're all going to have our own experience of it. But for example, I was just thinking of like my parents used to say that when I was little, I would go around asking everybody's advice for stuff. Like I would ask my friends what to do in these different situations. And I remember this one time my mom said, I used to be really worried because you would ask everybody what to do for like, if something was going on. And she goes, oh, I'm so worried that you're being, that you can't make decisions for yourself. And I remember being like, wait, what? I'm like, no, I can tell based off how my body responds to what they say. So like I need someone to reflect to me.
Interesting.
I could like ask a question about the boy I was with. Like, oh, do you think that I should date him? Right. And one girl would say, oh my gosh, yes, you guys are so cute together. You should totally date him. And then another girl would say, no, he's not good enough for you. And guess what? It's not that I care that she's right or think either of them have the answer. I would tune in and say, ooh, like, yeah, that's right. Right? Because we get it reflected to us and then we can respond to the information. So it's not taking it all as true. It's
interesting.
It's receiving the input to see what sparks in you.
Whoa.
The answer.
It's kind of like because people are like a mirror to us.
Yes.
I really resonate with that. It's super interesting. And I think this also, because you're just thinking about my friends and also like me growing up and navigating our 20s, like whether it's a relationship or even as simple as like, I know some girls who, and it gets a little annoying, but like will send pictures to like, I'll realize that she's not only sending it to me, but she'll send it to like 10 other girlfriends to be like, which picture do you like more? What is that about?
Well, I think there's a fine line. Okay, there's a fine line between, again, seeking validation and answers from the outside versus like testing, like using people as mirrors to process through your own stuff. I think there's a fine line between
the difference?
those. That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been posed that question in that exact way, but I know what you mean. Like I have friends who I've actually had to like, we're not friends anymore because they would come to every single friend with the boy problem and you tell them the right thing to do. And then they don't listen to any of it. Yeah. And they just go around in their spirals. Right. So we don't want to be doing that.
No, that's what I'm trying to like, because there are like, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think like, having like a board of directors, I love to say this in my life. Like I have like my board of directors that I go to. It's not all of my friends, but like I have certain friends that I trust for certain things because like I really look up to them in this certain area of my life.
Yes.
Same with mentors,
and we get to have those people. That's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, as an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur multiple times over. My husband's an entrepreneur. The single biggest advice I give for people that want to pave their own way in the world in whatever way, you have to be seeking people that know more than you in certain areas and be willing to find the right people that know the answers, like always. So you want to surround yourself with that counsel, right? You're calling it board of directors, which I love. I mean, for me, I do run things by my parents if I'm going through something and I want their perspective.
Yeah.
And my best friend of 20 years and my husband and, then I might ask my business coach, right? Like I have my council of trusted advisors. I think the difference is there's a difference between spouting out to anybody that will listen to you.
Yeah.
Right? Like
like
every
hijacking,
person
Absolutely, yes.
Versus consciously choosing and saying, like, who can I share this question with that might be able to give me input, and like who's also going to empower you, because like as somebody who coaches other female leaders, when you ask that question of or I don't even know what the question was at this point, but I was thinking like when my clients come to me and they say, well, I don't know what to do, or should I do this or what should I do next, I don't give them an answer. I can tell them my experience and tell them my story. I can tell examples from other clients and things that seem relevant. And I will always turn it around to end it with what feels right. How does that sit with you? Based off everything I just said, what is that bringing up for you? Based off everything I said, how does that sit? What do you think you're going to do? Like what, and they have the answer. They get to be the one to say, based off what you're saying, it's actually making me realize I don't want to do that route, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I feel like it's a beautiful dance of asking yourself, like, who are the people in my life that inspire me? Like, where are the circles where I see my future self stepping into, and like, who do I want to show up as, regardless of what's standing in my way? Like, who do I want to be on the other side, and who do I think are the people that will help me in getting there?
Yes.
But then at the same time, it's like, okay, knowing all of this, no one else is me.
Yeah.
It's me against me always.
Yeah.
And how can I like tap into the deepest parts of Sky or whomever is listening to be like, okay, what feels good? And that's can be very scary, but that is really, I think, when we grow and when we can actually tap into like that thriving potential of what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I have to add, can I get a little spiritual for a second?
That is, yes.
Okay.
Please, 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 please.
I when you were speaking, I just wanted to add this whole other layer, which is, so I believe that we are all divine beings and that we're all a spark of God. Like the way that I see God is, it's like we're all little pieces incarnate, right? And to me, getting in touch with my inner guidance, getting in touch with my intuition, it's actually getting in touch with that spark of the divine within, like my soul, like the truest, like you said, the truest part of you, right? The deepest part of you. So like that should be, speaking of shoulds, that should be the number one voice and directive. I mean, it's interesting during, the ages of time, there's ways that like humans have kind of gone through these different stages of evolution of consciousness. And there were obviously periods of time when it was like the church and the organized religion rules everything because you need to learn like the word of God. And it was like taking this like from above, from outside of yourself, here's what you're supposed to do. And like now we're coming around to this realization of like, oh, that was all to teach us values, but like the word of God exists within me. If I'm tuned in and if I'm, really aligned to my truth, of course, we don't want to confuse. This is why I get why they did it, because people can confuse. If you say the voice of God's within you, then you have somebody who's actually hearing the inner critic thoughts and then running off those and saying that's the voice of God. Like we got to be clear about like what's the true channel.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
But the true channel is your own direct line to God, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it. And that's where like the real magic can happen. This is why I'm saying it can be the only place to create your most aligned, thriving, amazing life from, right? Including like your work, your purpose, your family, everything. Because like that's where you get to co-create with God. That's where you get to co-create with the entire universe.
This is so crazy. And like it's going to make me emotional because I think for a period I'm spiritual as well. Like I grew up in a very spiritual household, and there was a period like a couple months ago, I think like even in my relationship where I just wasn't connecting as much to like my higher self or source. And recently through the shit, I'm like, fuck, hello, Sky. Developed that relationship again. Not that I ever lost that, but I just wasn't nourishing it on a day-to-day basis. And literally it was like maybe 2 nights ago, just really needed to like connect with my angels and source and God. And like, I literally like had a moment where I had my eyes closed and like, I felt like my angels quite literally, like this sounds so crazy, but like handing me a sword. I'm going to cry. And they're like, this is like, you have to do this like to help women. And like, I'm going to cry. But, like,
I feel you. I just had I really resonate.
I sound crazy.
No, you don't. Not at all to me. You don't sound crazy to me. This is my shit, girl. I was just on a retreat, a women's retreat, and we did this whole, like we were doing this breathwork practice, Himalayan breathwork, and there was this part where we're doing this warrior stuff. And I started crying because she said something like, pick up your sword or whatever. And she's like, and what are you fighting for? Yeah. And I just was overcome because I said, oh my God, I'm fighting for love. I'm fighting for freedom. I'm fighting for like the goodness of our world. And that is truly what I believe I'm doing with all of my business ventures. And so you are. And like, we are, of course, the angels, your higher self, they're empowering you because this work is needed. When you're on a purposeful path, it's not easy.
Oh my God.
Because there is no path laid out, right? You're forging it. You're fucking cutting down, you're macheting the shit out of the way to forge your path. But that is our job. That's like our greatest purpose of being born is to forge that path, because it makes way for the other people. It shows other people what's possible. So thank you for doing God's work.
Literally touche. And like, regardless, it is so worth it. And that's why this platform is so important to me, to like show other women that we're both doing it. We're in it together. And if we can be a mirror to help you discover your purpose, to find what being real, what being confident means to you, like that's what it's about. And it's going to look different for all of us. And it's so okay. It's so beautiful. I'm so here for it. I don't know. There's something about our like just dynamic. I adore you.
Right back at you.
Like,
because there's real, recognize real.
Yeah.
Like I think it's, I've gone through a journey. I mean, I talked a little bit about the beginning of me first starting my business ventures, but like there's so many levels of just unraveling any masks you've taken on and ways you think you have to be to like really emerge truly authentic and fully embodied in like all your facets and ways. And that's what I'm most proud of that I've been able to do. And I see you blooming, as like your truest, realest, wholest self, which is the most special thing to see in somebody else who's like walking their path, living their purpose, like, leading the way. Like I'm so impressed by you.
I feel the same way about you. Like you're a star to me. And I have to ask you, okay, looking back at like your journey and anything that's like surfacing for you right now, because I'm sure there's things that are showing up in your life that are not easy, but regardless of blank, I am blank.
Regardless of blank, I am blank. Okay, wait. Can I process through a story to figure out what the lesson is? Because when you said that, you're like, you're going through stuff right now. And what came to my mind was, so we're currently moved out of our home that we own, and we were subletting like closer to the valley side of Topanga. And we were in this 3-month sublet. We're still there. And we had this opportunity to take over the lease, and we were going to do that. And then the eclipse happened, and I got these really strong urges, feelings that was like, we're not supposed to renew the lease. We're not. Like, we can't, this isn't the right move. And so me being me, trusted that. And we just made the crazy decision to like nomad for the summer, which isn't that crazy, but it's crazy for us because we have 2 little kids.
Yeah, you have kids. You're like,
we have a 3 and 4-year-old. Yeah. So like, it's just a little, it feels a little crazy. It feels a little spicy, but it just felt like the move right now. And again, it was like that feeling of like, okay, this is scary, but it feels like a leap in it feels like a leap towards. And when we leap, we don't even know where we're going. It's like, I don't know what's on the other side, but we get to now like be in this exciting in between and then see where we're supposed to land on the other side. So maybe it's something about like, regardless of, I don't know. That felt like the story that needed to come through. Regardless of the end result, I know I'm making the right decision. I don't know. Can that be an answer to your
100%
question? Okay.
I mean, anything. It's just regardless of not knowing, I'm going.
Yeah. Oh, that's way better than mine. Thank you. I need you for my branding.
No, because I'm in the same situation right now where my lease ends in June because my landlord lost his place to the wildfires. And he's like, girls, we got to move in, get out, like in a nicer way than that. Yeah. But that's how it felt when I was receiving it. And I'm now like, okay, gonna move back to San Diego, gonna be here every week recording in the studio in LA, like gonna figure it out, may sleep on a couple of my friends' couches. Love you guys. Yeah. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what next week could hold. I don't know.
Yes.
But regardless, I'm going. We're showing up.
I love that. That's
and,
our
like,
new
we're in
mantra.
it, like,
That's our new
together.
mantra. Perfect.
Grace, this was freaking awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. Like, this was therapy in a 15-minute session.
Amazing. I also was thinking as we were talking, I have this freebie exercise that I think aligns so with everything we were just talking about. It's this like guided meditation and journaling to help you get in touch with your higher self and that voice. And I would love to drop it for your audience. I can give you the link if you want to put it in the show notes. And anyway, it's just like a great guided practice for hearing from your higher self versus the inner critic and being willing to like lean into that and trust that. So
Please, we will drop it in the show notes.
Amazing.
Also, if my beautiful audience of amazing women that I love want to work with you, how can we find you? Obviously Instagram, which I'll tap into the show notes, but what are other ways that we can come get some Grace time?
Yeah, on Instagram at Forward with Grace, Forward W Grace. And then I have some really exciting things that I'm very excited about for a while. And it's going to be a way of basically like the culmination of essentially a decade's worth of my work in a way that's really accessible for people to like tap in and begin to start their inner journey, start their activation of their intuition, hearing from their higher self, just living in more flow and alignment. Is on its way. So just go to the Instagram, follow along, and you will be seeing a drop. It will be coming. I would love for anybody to join in there.
Grace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yay.
We did it. New episodes drop every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.